All right, well, thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you had a good weekend there. We got an update from our VicPD officers who are off in New York at the World Police and Fire Games right now. So as you recall, 17 of our officers went to New York for the World Police and Fire Games, and they mostly left last week. Unfortunately, the timing coincided with the arrival of Hurricane Irene, which hit shores on the weekend. We did get a note from Inspector Pierce, who is one of our athletes, and he sent an update today just reporting on the games and the hurricane. So he said, like most in New York, our officers prepared for the worst and hoped for the best. Their hotel rooms and condo rooms were prepared with water and food, just in case of an extra emergency. Fortunately, the storm was downgraded, I think, to a tropical storm, and did not cause the major disruptions that were anticipated. However, many events were rescheduled, but unfortunately both the triathlon and the half marathon were canceled. Now those cancellations affected 7 of our officers who had signed up for the triathlon or the half marathon. So our officers are still thrilled to be in New York and happy to be at the World Police and Fire Games representing VicPD, Victoria, and Canada.
Any word on whether the opening ceremonies were still intact and going ahead?
When were the opening ceremonies? I can't recall. Was that Friday? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Saturday and Sunday that were the major disruptions into the scheduling. So, yeah. All right. So this weekend we arrested a violent offender following a series of armed robberies. A violent and prolific offender was arrested by VicPD officers following 2 armed robberies in the Burnside Gorge neighborhood. A 31-year-old Victorian man who is well known to police for violent offenses. And if you recall, he was the target of our investigation in the 700 block of Pandora 2 weeks ago. The most recent run-in with police occurred Friday around 12 p.m. He committed 2 armed robberies against people he knew, and the robberies occurred at a home in the 600 block of Dunedin Street and an apartment suite in the 600 block of Gorge Road. He produced a weapon and stole jewelry, cash, and personal items. The first robbery that occurred at Dunedin Street is where he stole the victim's SUV also to drive to the Gorge Road apartment building. Our officers arrived at the Gorge Road apartment building and he was arrested hiding inside the apartment suite. He's facing charges of robbery, possession of stolen property, possession of a weapon, and uttering threats. He was set to be telebailed but refused to participate in the process and was remanded for court today.
What about you if they refuse? Are there extra charges?
No, there's no extra charges. They go at a telebail in front of a judicial justice of the peace. So if they refuse, then they go in front of a judge, and that happens at the next court appearance, so which would be today.
And is there any difference in the process other than who they see?
Yeah, if you go in front of a JJP, a judicial justice, there's a chance that you can be released back into the community on strict conditions, things like that, but didn't even roll the dice on this one. He just refused to participate and was lodged in jail until today.
But that's his option, right?
Yep.
And so sorry, I just want to be clear. He was arrested at about noon on Friday inside a suite at a Gorge Road apartment on the 600 block?
Yes.
And so we're expecting charge approval possibly today, and at that point his name could be released?
Yep.
And so you said he's known to police. How well known to police? How long has he had a history in our community?
A long history with us for some violent offenses, and he's very well known to us.
Does this conclude the original investigation at the 700 block of Pandora that you guys were working on?
Yes, this does conclude that investigation. We'll still be tidying up any loose ends or anything like that, but for the most part, this is pretty much said and done.
And no injuries to the people that he was robbing, or were there any?
No, there are no injuries to anybody.
And what's the nature of the weapon that was used? Was it a firearm or was it like a edge weapon?
Just stating that it's a weapon right now.
were there any charges relating to 700 block of Pandora?
No, there's no charges relating to that. There are a couple reasons we do search warrants. Sometimes it's to get a person into custody, sometimes it's to gather evidence. So that was predominantly what that one was to gather more evidence against this male. All right, any other questions on that one? No. So our Marine unit and Victoria Fire Department were utilized to rescue a fallen man. So our Marine unit and the Victoria Fire Department were needed early Sunday morning to rescue a man. He had fallen down the embankment along the Gorge Waterway near Washington Avenue. It was just after midnight. We received multiple calls about a person yelling for help near the Selkirk Trestle. In the darkness, our officers searched the heavily wooded area on foot. Our Marine response unit was also called in to assist to search the shoreline. We located the man who had fallen down an 8-foot embankment and was standing in ankle-deep water. He was holding himself up on weeds and was clearly struggling. Victoria Fire was then called in for a high-angle rescue. The firefighters lowered themselves down the embankment and pulled the man to safety. The 51-year-old man of no fixed address was mildly intoxicated and stated that he had fallen down the embankment. He was shivering and taken to hospital as a precaution. All right. Then we had a federal inmate who was busted by off-duty cops. A federal inmate who was on statutory release was sent back to jail. Timing was everything for this fellow. He was busted by off-duty VicPD officers early Sunday morning, about 12:30 a.m. Several of our off-duty officers were at Darcy's Pub for a Cops for Cancer fundraiser. One of those officers saw a man drinking that he knew was an inmate on statutory release. And that was showing that he was clearly in breach of his no alcohol condition. So the members of the Late Night Great Night were called to assist and arrested the man. 32-year-old Campbell River man was returned to prison, and his parole has been suspended with this breach charge.
The 32-year-old?
32-year-old, yeah.
Can we get a name?
No, when we suspend the parole, it's a recommendation of the parole board to actually revoke it, so there's not a formal charge process that goes with that.
And do we know what the original offense was that he was on parole for?
I'm not sure, no. I believe it was break and enter, but I'm not sure.
And was he allowed to be in Victoria, just not drinking?
That's the information we had, is that it was against his conditions to be drinking.
And he goes drinking at a place where the cops are having a fundraiser for Cops for Cancer.
Apparently so, yes. Didn't see the signs on the door.
There should be a crime in there somewhere.
There is something, yeah. And that's all I have prepared. Anything from you guys?
What happens to that report that was, you put a news release on it on Friday, the report in the Nanaimo incident?
On Thursday?
Yeah,
Yep.
Does it go to Police Complaints Commission now for review? Or how?
That's the RCMP,
Oh, no,
and we dealt with criminal charges in the criminal investigations. That's it.
Right, so the recommendation was not to lay any criminal charges against either party?
That was the recommendation from Crown Counsel.
Okay, from the, to Crown Counsel, that was recommended?
From Crown Counsel. We supply a report to Crown Counsel.
Yeah.
And after that report, they look at the circumstances and they make the ultimate decision whether charges are laid or not.
Right, okay, and so, and it's that decision that's...
That is the decision, yeah.
Okay. Do you know why the investigating officer did not interview the family?
We made several attempts to interview the family through their counsel. I think a total of 7. And we were shut down at every turn. So we did our best, and our officers are frustrated with the fact that they weren't able to do that.
What about that masturbator who was doing the bus stops.
Mhm.
Is he still active and we just haven't heard about him lately, or is he kind of?
We haven't had many reports. I can't recall any specifics since, I guess it was the spring when that was going on. So we still have our detective who's still alive to the issue, and if more information, more reports come in, we're certainly wanting to hear about that, but we just don't have a lot to go on right now.
Do you have anything new on the, the cycling blitz, with helmets and,
I do have statistics that Constable Dunstan provided me, but they're back in the office. I'd have to check for you.
Okay.
Have you sent that out to everybody?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Any back to school stuff that's coming up pretty soon?
Hopefully be doing that this week. Yeah,
This week.
this week or early next.
Anyone come forward on that road rage incident, hoping for witnesses on that?
I don't know. I'd have to talk to, our investigator comes back to work tomorrow, so I'd have to chat with him and see if anybody's come forward in that. But yeah, certainly a bizarre one there. That was.
Yeah.
I didn't know my mother was in town.
Yeah. All right.